Letter 9. It is all in a worthy name. Dear Lady Mary, you are an officially titled lady, to the English manner born and by marriage confirmed. When you went to Turkey, you brought with you a bearing confirmed by your birth, your heritage, your upbringing, your wealth, your education, and your connections. All closed doors were magically opened to you because of your highborn status, your husband's political introductions, and your diplomatic passport. All the heritage of your ladyship distinguished you even before you crossed the border and made people attentive to you once you were there. You were called lady everywhere you went, just as you were in England. Yet perhaps you do not realize that your ladyship did not make you all that special in Turkey, for every woman there is a lady. I, too, am a lady in Turkey. A lady a bit different than you, perhaps, but a lady nonetheless. Not one high-born of the manner, but one born into the nobility of womanhood. Turks consider all women, since the time of the mother goddess of the Hittites, to be an exceptional class. When they address you, they call you Hanim, which translates as lady. They put this term after your first name if they know it, and you instantly have an automatic title. In Turkey, I am not just Kathy, but rather Lady Kathy, wherever I go. Being called a lady makes me look at myself differently, and I somehow feel a bit more distinguished, lucky to have been born in the noblest class of all, the sisterhood of women. Turks have a very special relationship with the titles of Lord, Bey, and Lady, Hanem, and apply them every time they use your name. You are not Mr. David Jones or Mrs. Sarah Hart, but Lord David and Lady Sarah. Last names are not commonly used in Turkey, and despite the trends of westernization over the last years, people still refer to each other only by first names. The use of a last name seems odd to Turks, who find its use too formal and an impediment to proper communication. When you were in Turkey, it was the same. You were on a first-name basis with your acquaintances Fatima and Ahmed, a liberty of familiarity that you never would have taken at home in England. In fact, no one at all had a last name in Turkey until very recently. Turks lived for centuries operating with one name only, or, as is the traditional custom in Islamic countries, with a nickname, such as One-Armed Ali or Mehmet the Hawk. That was all before the arrival of the tornado known as Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who took it upon himself to enact a reform that would change forever the way Turks were called. The name law of 1934-36 was a deliberate step towards westernization, along with many of the other politically directed social reforms that he instigated in the first years of the Turkish Republic. This last name law enacted legislation requiring every citizen to register a family name, which set the Turkish people scrambling to come up with names for themselves. Although urban Turks had little problem with this new law, the rural population had some difficulty understanding the necessity for his move. In the end, they adopted several patterns for name selection, designating what was important to them. These chosen surnames tell legions about the societal values of the times, which perhaps in some ways still hold true today. One of the first surname types chosen was to designate a family relationship, which showed the well-grounded respect for elders that I spoke about in the previous letter. This usually took the form of son of, Olu, tacked onto the end of a name. Yes, here in Turkey, you can truly be named son of a gunmaker. Turks know who they are and where they come from. They are very proud to be from their area, often picking names to reflect this pride, such as Ahmet from Konya, Konyala. They are also very proud of their glorious ancestors and chose patriotic names of the great heroic tribes, be it of the canon of the Central Asians, Seljuks, or Ottomans. Ali, son of the Seljuks, Selçuklu, Mehmet, son of the Karamans, Karamanlı, or the nicknames of the famous Ottoman sultans. Yildirim, the lightning bolt, or Yavuz, the resolute, or eventually perhaps the name of a specific nomadic tribal lineage, such as the Sordid Ones, Kılıçlar, or the Big Belly, Karnabuyuk. On a simpler level, the Turks often picked pleasing or inspiring common object names like lion, Arslan, or gray wolf, Bozkurt, black knife, Sayabachak, or pure cream, Uzkaymak. I especially like the last names that were picked just because they sounded pretty, poetic, or for their pleasant evocations. The one who smiles, or let you be exalted. The one from the rainy valley, sky of steel, big full moon, silver belt, black smoke, or white smoke, son of a good friend, former wrestling champion, well-cooked milk, beautiful voiced, or piney pass. Especially creative are the names that were chosen because the person had a distinctive physical characteristic, such as son of the one-armed man, son of an orphan, or son of the one who wears tassels. My all-time favorites are the last names chosen to designate an occupation. To me, this symbolizes the great pride of Turks for their chosen trades. Names such as coffee maker, son of an archer, son of a scrambled eggs maker, son of a chickpea roaster, son of a candlestick maker, son of a quilt maker, or son of a hazelnut grower. These names will always serve to remind Turks of a way of life at this period in their history. Today, a chosen last name would probably take the form of Ali, son of a computer programmer. But in 1934, things were different. Even some 75 years after Ataturk's last name law was enacted, first names are still the coin of the realm. Everyone is on a first-name basis immediately after being introduced, which creates an intimacy and a familiarity that is oftentimes surprising to our more reserved culture. I was raised not to call anyone by their first name unless invited to do so, but here you are intimate at once, and this informality takes some getting used to for Westerners. Despite all the will of Ataturk, Turks to this day still prefer to call each other by first names and have not universally adopted the practice of last names. The Istanbul phone book only started listing last names in 1950, long after the name law was passed. I work as a volunteer with a Turkish charity group here in the United States, and I was given the task of updating the database of member names, which I discovered was entirely organized by first names. First names, too, are as creative and interesting as the surnames. In the past, the names used by the Ottoman Turks were in essence Arab and Muslim in origin. There is a trend now to pick baby names that are more Turkish-based: Aslan, Orhan, Ozer, Turhan, Kubilay, Timur, Ilhan, and less influenced by Persian or Arabic traditions. In addition to this growing preference for traditional Turkish names of Central Asiatic origin, European and more exotic names are starting to make an appearance. Typhoon is one I found exotic, if not odd. There are definitely fewer Ahmets and Mehmets appearing on classroom rosters today. Like the surnames, these first names are often inspiring, poetic, and beautiful. Boys tend to be given strong and stirring names such as Cengiz, Genghis, Timur, Tamerlane, or Yilmaz, the Dauntless. My favorite male name is Turek, the brightest star in the heavens. Girls are given sweet and dainty names, often after the most lovely things in nature, or to describe poetic thoughts, such as silk, pearl, dream, or honey spring. My favorite is Iram, Garden of God. When you add a colorful first name to a flamboyant last name, this can often evoke an entire epic. Mr. Lightning White Cloud, Mr. Pure Iron Son of a fur hat maker, Mr. Mongol Rock of Steel, Mr. Rock of the True Earth, and Mr. Ever-Blooming Wild Rose are some examples that have caught my fancy. Can you imagine going through life known as Lord Lightning White Cloud? How I wish I could have grown up being called Silken Rose or some other such name. If I had a brother named Tarek, perhaps he would have grown up to become an explorer or a space traveler. Yet I have a very pedestrian first name. One day, my Turkish poet friend asked me, "Kathy, just what does your name mean?" I was embarrassed that I could not tell him, for in truth, I have no idea what Catherine means, or why my parents chose it. I then realized how poor we were in my culture to give our children names detached from any meaning, to deny them the inspiration to grow up to resemble their name. It made me appreciate how creatively Turkish people attributed such characteristics as hope, strength, and poetry to their children. As a result, my friend, being a take-charge Turk, decided to rebaptize me with a Turkish name. He came up with one sounding similar to my real name, and at the same time with a meaning that he thought suited me well, Kadriya. It means honorable one, she who has esteem and value. It turns out that this is a very old-fashioned name. Yet whenever I introduce myself as Kadriya, Turks respond to me completely differently than when I give my real name. It is, of course, easier for them to remember and pronounce than my English name, but above all, it sets me apart as one who has been considered as worthy of esteem and consideration. For that, I am eternally grateful to my friend for rebaptizing me, for it has made me feel more welcome and a part of the Turkish culture. Now, I am known as Kadriya to any Turk who meets me and to all of my Turkish friends. Besides this given name, I have been given other nicknames as well, always used with my lady title. I have been called the Swimming Lady, Caravanserai Lady, Lady Yellow Rose, Lady Smiling Eyes, and Lady Blue Eyes. You can be sure that I never forget those creative and heartfelt gestures of friendship expressed in a simple name. It is all in a name indeed, as the old expression goes. So what do their names say about the Turks? Their names say that they are proud of their heritage, their families, and their trades. They indicate their deep love for nature and beauty. They show how the Turks like to dream, and how they wish to create a strong identity for their children. They show their creative and playful side. They let us discover a people that are respectful and friendly at the same time. Yes, something as small as a name tells legions about this people. Have you ever thought about what last name you would choose if given the chance, Lady Mary? Indeed, it would be hard to choose one above all others. I probably would have been known as Lady Keeper of Books, and you would have been baptized as Lady Flowing Pen. Yet in the end, I agree with the Turks. Who needs a last name after all? I think being called Lady Yellow Rose the Worthy suits me just fine. Sincerely, Kadriya Branning.